It's time to go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Didn't come up anyway.
Didn't it?
No, it didn't, mate.
No, it doesn't matter. Don't matter. Let's carry on.
Let's do it again quickly. 2 seconds. Here we go.
No.
Hello, it's there. No, not working.
Nah.
Don't matter. It doesn't matter, mate. It doesn't matter.
Terry, it's time to go.
Yeah, carry on. I think the problems with YouTube tonight. I think there's a lot of problems, mate. Right.
Yeah.
Too many people are using the internet. Anyway, that's mate. Let's carry on.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Claude and the Bansters. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad that you're with us tonight on this special podcast. We've got the man himself, Mr. Kevin Campbell. How you doing, Kevin? You okay, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Very good.
I just want to say from all of us here at Claude and the Bansters, we just appreciate you giving up your free time and coming on to talk about the man in person tonight, David Rocastle, mate.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure for that man. That it's 19 years and it still rankles with me. It's still very, very difficult to even discuss.
Yeah. Okay. And we've also got Claude. Claude, how you doing, mate? Hope you're good.
I'm okay, mate. I'm okay. Thanks for Kevin for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you on, Kevin, and thanks for coming on. I know it's a difficult time for you, but thank you very much for coming on, mate, and on the show.
No problem.
We've also got a couple of Bansters with me, Diesel and Lev. How you doing, boys? You okay? You good?
Good, Lev.
I'm good. I'm excited. It's a pleasure to be here. I used to sneak in as a steward back in the day. I said be a steward, and then I used to sneak in, take my top off, sneak in into the crowd to watch the likes of Super Kev. So this is bizarre for me, but it's a pleasure to see him, mate. But don't mention that, by the way. I didn't get sacked.
You've already done it, mate.
Right, sack me. It was Highbury. It was the good old days.
We all used to have to get creative to get it in at times because there weren't a lot of money.
No, I guaranteed health and safety first, Kev. Then I snuck in during the games. It worked for a couple of seasons. Then I got the boot, but it was worth it.
What about yourself, Diesel? You good? You okay?
Yeah, listen, I'm all good. I've been excited all day, if I'm honest. It's actually my second podcast, sharing it with Super Kev. So when they say lightning doesn't strike twice, they're bloody lying. But no, listen, all joking aside, I really appreciate your time, Kev. And I'm buzzing about this. And hello for all the guys in the chat. Appreciate you tuning in. Right,
so let's get straight down to it. I have got a slideshow to show everyone in a minute, but obviously I'm having a bit of problems at the moment with the internet. So what we'll do is we'll just get straight down to it for the minute until the internet quickens up a bit. So Kevin, just give us a little rundown of what you thought of David Rocastle and the man himself, mate.
Well, Rocky for me is there's two Rockies. There's Rocky's the teammate, the footballer, the unbelievable glue, Mr. Arsenal type guy in the dressing room. And there's Rocky off the pitch, who is the most humble, loveliest, most caring guy or teammate you could wish to meet. And, everybody's heard stories about Rocky. There's even a slogan behind him now, which was part of the club. But when Rocky said it, it meant a lot, Remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. That shows a bit that's the class of Arsenal back in the days at Highbury. And to this day, that statement should carry on to a lot of these youngsters now, because it looks like we've got some of these youngsters coming through who actually can wear the shirt with a bit of pride and passion. So, they're not there fully yet, but if they could carry that with them, they could make us really proud. So, Rocky was an incredible type of player. He was fearless. It doesn't matter where he played on the pitch, whether it's centre mid or right midfield. He always gave everything. He had that bit of class and talent of we called him the South London Brazilian, because he had such great close control and he could beat people. He was an exciting player. When he first broke through, we were all so happy for him. Obviously, he's a few years older than myself, so seeing Rocky do it, Paul Davis before him, Rocky doing it, Michael Thomas, all that area, Tony Adams, then that gave my age group the impetus to be Arsenal boys, Arsenal players, first teamers, to really believe it. But you've got to give credit to George Graham as well. Obviously, the boys had the talent, but George Graham had to mould them. And, that's what he did. He moulded that team. And, boy, were we so proud of that team. And I was lucky enough to get on the end of it, which was absolutely fantastic. But, it's still painful to even think about Rocky not being around. And it's great to know that, a lot of the away fans especially sing Rocky's name. I know Rocky gets Rocky Rocastle sung at the Emirates as well. Yeah. But I think the away crowd really buy into Dave Rocastle, and it's what a fantastic advert for Arsenal Football Club. And we've had ups and downs, we've had infighting and everything, but on a day like today, I think everybody can unite and just pay homage to a fantastic Arsenal man.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. What about yourself, Paul? What do you used to think about David Rocastle?
Oh, it's such a talented player, and you know what? It just shows you how much. I mean, I put that thing out at midnight tonight on my Twitter, and I had Man City fan retweeting, Everton fan, both saying. A Man City fan said to me, "He was only here a short time, but we loved him." Yeah. He was only there a short time, and they loved him. And you know what stands out more, and why everyone in the football world as well, if you look at it, the Spurs game, with the minute silence, the Tottenham fans totally respected it. You know what I'm saying? It was total respect, wasn't there? It just shows you how much respect and love he had around the country. I remember even Ken Bates of Chelsea on the day when it happened, he gave respect as well, because he was respected all over, all the clubs he went to, even the ones he wasn't there a long time. It was very sad. I remember when we let him go, I was fuming because I thought, what the hell, what's going on here? I thought, and I know the players weren't very happy as well. If I'm not mistaken, Kevin, I'm sure.
No, you're right.
The players were very happy. And I was fuming. I said, "What are we selling Rocky for?" And but obviously George saw something that. Well, I mean, his knee wasn't right. See, us as fans, we don't see all this, do we? We don't see all that about his knee. Although he did have a lot of time out, didn't he? He did have a lot of ins and out of the game, didn't he? I mean, the 1991 season, he played the first 10 or 11 games, wasn't it, Kevin? Yeah. And then he got an injury. Because I remember he said at the end of the season, why people keep asking me whether I should get a championship medal when I played the start of the season. I remember him saying that, quoting him saying that. My memories of him was when I was a motorbike courier as well, and I was driving up the Farringdon Road, and I think he was in the silver Mercedes at the time, open top Mercedes, and I pulled up alongside, and I said, "Rocky," and he put his hand out, and we shook hands, and that's the sort of guy he is. You know what I mean? There's not enough of that in modern day football anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's very sad. I mean, I remember the day. I mean, even that Tottenham game. Even though we won the game, I was still thinking of what happened with Rocky. That day, because we played Tottenham the next day on the 1st of April. And funny enough, and what was happened that day is that the man that wore the number 7 shirt was Robert Perez, and he scored a goal that Rocky would have been proud of. He had everything. He had everything. He could tackle. You could play him centre, as Kevin just said. He could play him central midfield. He had everything, and I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's all I can say because I'm welling up here a bit. Sorry.
Well, we understand your emotions, mate. I mean, he was a fantastic player. Just quickly, Lev, let's come to yourself. What did you think about Rocastle, mate?
Mate, what didn't I think of Rocastle? Well, for me, I mean, like growing up as a kid, I had a few players that I idolised. At Arsenal, I have to say, for me, it was Rocky. And then obviously you had like your Maradonas and all of this when you was growing up as a kid. But for me, Rocky was just look. You had wingers. Obviously, he played on the wing quite a bit, and you had wingers. But then you had Rocky was a little bit different. He was tenacious as well as very skillful. So he had all the skill in the world, but he had to fight with it. And you didn't always see that. Wingers, a lot of the time, were known as quite sort of nippy and light. And, you know, if you get at them, you could really sort of maybe put them off their game. But Rocky was not like that. You know, he loved to get stuck in. And I was saying to obviously you guys know off air, we were talking about it before we started, that, you know, as a youngster, I used to go to be a steward, just to be near the players and near Highbury and just to soak it all in. And back then, Kev will know better than most, back then, the players were a lot more accessible. You used to see them walking past you. You know, they come past with their wives, and he used to have this aura about him. He was just a really, really nice, humble guy. It doesn't matter how good he was. I mean, this is a guy that was when he first come on the scene. He got what, PFA Young Eagle. He was in the PFA Team of the Year as well. Then, you know, there was. I just can't speak more highly enough. I mean, he inspired me. I wanted to be a winger because of Rocky. Do you know what I mean? So that's all I can. I was gutted. I didn't know about his knee problems. I couldn't, for the life of me, understand why he wasn't playing at times. I couldn't understand why we sold him. It broke my heart as a youngster. But I mean, I love the guy. I mean, I even named my pet, my first cat, after him, and it was a bit of an infatuation. But I love the guy. I love him. You know what I mean? And I'll always will. I'll never forget him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Liv. I mean, fantastic player. Diesel, what about yourself, mate?
Yeah, listen, I mean, you guys have said it all. I mean, the man was he was a legend. One thing I will say, and I make no bones about it, right? You know, the amount of podcasts I've done, and sometimes I do this players like Rocky and Kev and others. You know, these guys are they're the reason I started watching Arsenal. That I begged my dad to take me to Highbury, right, to watch games. And there's nothing better for fans. Any fan will tell you, right, when you're watching players play for the Arsenal and they enjoy playing for the Arsenal, they appreciate playing for the. You know, they look like they're. My God, I'm living out my dream, right? That is the exact reason why sometimes I'm so hard on the players of today, because when you look at players of this caliber, the players we've had at this club, you know, I mean, even when we talk about, you know, Rocastle, you know, in his car crying when George Graham wanted to sell him. I mean, come on. I mean, he wasn't the only one, by the way. I think we're all in bits. As Claude says, you know, we don't see what's behind the scenes. We don't know what goes on. All we see is we're hurting because it's one of our boys. Can't be doing that. Even when he finishes playing, you got to find some sort of role for him at the club. Something, because this man is Arsenal. You know, we go on about Tony Adams, Mr. Arsenal. For me, Rocky's up there as well.
Yeah.
You know, and Kev and the players of that era, you know, synonymous. I mean, 19 years on, right? A lot of people get forgotten. Things in life, they just get forgotten. It's life. You know, Rocky's synonymous with this club. 19 years later, that tells a story. That tells it. Can't get any better than that. He's loved. Always will be. Always will be loved.
No, exactly. You're so right, Diesel. We've got a super chat here from One the Cheeks. Thank you for your contribution, mate. He's put, you guys are great. Rocky was amazing. Gone too soon. Definitely was, mate. Yeah. Definitely was. For me,
I'll tell you something. Claude made the point, and Diesel kind of touched on it. Whereas fans are gutted that Rocky was being sold. I tell you who had a big problem. George Graham at the time.
Yeah.
George Graham had a huge problem with the squad because the squad weren't happy. And I think it was a couple of days after, we actually had to have a meeting to clear the air.
Yeah.
And to get us refocused again, because losing somebody like Rocky, when you lose the glue from the dressing room, there was no clicks. That's one thing George Graham never had, but Rocky was good with everybody. He was good with Smarja, he was good with Lee Dixon, he was good with Boldy, he was good with Tony Adams, Mers. Everybody, you name it, Rocky got on with everyone.
Yeah.
And not everybody got on, but everybody respected each other. But Rocky was that glue. And he taught me, especially as a youngster, so much about being a club man, being around that team and making sure everybody's all right. He really was special. And as I say, it took George Graham. We had to have a clear the air meeting to get over that, because it was a difficult one to get over. Tell you, it really was.
Yeah, I bet it was, mate. For me, I just want to add. I think I agree with every single one of the boys, but I think Diesel said it quite a few times every time I've been on podcasts with him before, and I think, to be honest, we throw the word legend about a bit too much, if you know what I mean, and not respect the actual word, what it actually means. And for me, you've got two players that jump to mind. One is obviously Tony Adams, and obviously the other one is, David Rocastle. I mean, they just mean everything to Arsenal and mean everything to me. Because everything that I want from Arsenal, everything that I want from a player, everything I want from a player that puts that shirt on, as soon as he gets in that dressing room, and as soon as that player goes out on the pitch and gives 120%, that is the players I want playing for Arsenal. And then to sum it up for me, as well as yourself, Kevin, as well as yourself. But obviously, these two players just stand out, I think.
No, I think you're right. I think when you look at that era, when George Graham took over in 86, 87, I think George Graham was so blessed. He was so lucky to inherit these young players coming through who bled Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? They bled red. And he looked at it and he thought to himself, wow, I could build a team around these guys to actually challenge Liverpool. First day of the pre-season, George Graham said, listen, it's that team in on Merseyside in red. This is who our target's going to be. If you're not on board, come and see me. So I'm going to give a lot of these youngsters a chance, he said. And the likes of Rocky, Mickey Thomas and all that, Rodders, Rodders had made his debut, but he's going to give him a chance to play and start and all that kind of thing. I was a first year YTS. I kind of, stood up, shuffled on the floor, because you wanted a manager who's going to turn around and say, we're going to give you guys an opportunity. But to see what he'd done with these guys and the trust he put in the likes of Rocky and Tony Adams. Obviously, Tony Adams, captain and leader, but Rocky was the silent captain and leader. He was a leader of the dressing room as well. And I don't know if you remember at 89 at Anfield, you see Rocky in the middle of the pitch, come on, boys, driving the boys on. So it weren't just Tony Adams who was the driving force. There was that Rocastle effect as well that drove the boys on more by leading by example than really shouting.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you.
Terry, can I ask a question? Because I'll go mad if I don't ask. He's not going to get these opportunities very often. But Kev, you mentioned that George had to sort of like have a word with you guys, to try and get the team back together after sort of Rocky went. What was his? Can I ask? What was his reason? What was he saying to you guys? Was his reason for letting him go? I mean, how did he drop it to you boys?
No, I don't think he didn't need to explain why.
So you all knew,
because we all knew. The writings on the wall with George. As soon as Rocky was struggling with a knee injury, etc., and you could imagine George Graham had spoken to the doctor and stuff like that. But I think it was just you know it can happen, but you don't expect it to happen. And then when it happened, I think the dressing room was stunned.
Yeah.
Because Rocky played such a massive part in the well-being of the squad. You know, at times Rocky weren't even playing, but he was such a good club man that he made life so much easier. There was no throwing his toys out the pram. There was none of that. It was always, come on, boys, you know, we can do it. And he played his position perfectly. So once that happened, everybody felt it because Rocky helped everybody. If you weren't playing, Rocky will lift you up. If you were playing, Rocky will pat you on the back or whatever. So I think it was more the shock of it. And, you know, there was a few heads had dropped a little bit because somebody who you've been in the trenches with, you've won trophies with, somebody who you can rely on isn't there anymore. And there's no new player coming in to replace him. How are you going to replace somebody who's a club man who bleeds Arsenal? It's going to be, you're going to struggle to replace him. So there was just an air of, you know, it was difficult at that time. So that's why George Graham, be fair to him, George Graham felt it and he got the squad together and he just started discussing. He just, you know, said, look, players are going to come and go, you know, and Rocky won't be the only player to come and leave this football club. But I've got to do what's best for the squad.
Yeah.
I really have to do what's best for the team and the squad. That's my job. And look what I've done so far. Said you're going to have to trust me on this one. It was the most difficult decision I had to do, but I had to do it. So, and you can accept, you know, he said it sincerely. He didn't say it, you know, as, you know, Colonel Gaddafi, as they used to call him, or whatever, as a dictator. He said it with passion. He said it with a lot of respect for Rocky. So I think the lads accepted it, and you know, we got our nut down and we moved on.
Yeah. Can I add on to that, Kev? Because my question would be for you is that obviously you grew up as an Arsenal fan. You've been in the terrace. You obviously played for your boyhood club, same as David Rocastle did. And you know how it would mean to you is how it would mean to us. So I want to ask, how did you feel when obviously Arsenal wanted to move you on, and how did you think David Rocastle felt at the time when obviously he got told that from George Graham that he had to go to Leeds and that?
Well, the crazy thing was, it wasn't me leaving the club, wasn't Arsenal wanting to move me on.
Yeah,
and this is the big difference, you see, because when I got to the end of my contract, Arsenal were in the transition. George Graham had got the sack. Stuart Houston had taken over as caretaker. We got to the end of that season in 95, and Bruce Rioch came in. And obviously there was a lot of changes happening at Arsenal. I got offered a 3-year deal, but it wasn't a matter of the 3-year deal. It was Bruce Rioch.
Yeah.
For me, well, as you probably know, that's why he only lasted a season.
Yeah.
There was a lot of problems with Bruce Rioch. I met him once, and that was enough for me. But you know, when the likes of Ian Wright and Tony Adams were even considering leaving the football club, that's why I think David Dean and the board moved pretty quickly to get him out. And what a fantastic what a fantastic move they made to bring in Arsene Wenger. You know, it was an amazing appointment, although not a lot of Gooners knew anything about Arsene Wenger, but he came in and made a huge difference. So, you know, fair play. I suppose you have to go through your difficult time with Bruce Rioch in order to get Wenger.
Yeah. So how did you think like David would have felt inside, you know, knowing that obviously he was playing for his boyhood club, you know what I mean? He's growing up Arsenal through and through. You get to play for your club, you know what I mean? You win the league with them, and then all of a sudden, I know he got that injury with his knee, but then obviously he got moved on. I mean, what would he be thinking?
Well, obviously, Rocky's an Arsenal man. He's an Arsenal man through and through. So, you know, the first initial shock is probably George Graham is actually done it.
Yeah.
You know, he's actually done it. So, you know, there's a lot of soul searching went on, I'm sure, because when you're a South London kid who used to travel across London to come to Arsenal, and it's been part of your life all that time, you know, you've become an England international, you become a top player, you become a winner at first team level with Arsenal, and then Arsenal turn around, or the manager turns around and says, "He don't want you no more."
Yeah.
You know, that's enough to bring the tears.
Yeah.
And it's not just for the tears from Rocky, it's the tears from the players within the squad, because you know, there ain't many times where, I think Diesel mentioned it before, where you can vouch for what's going on the pitch. As a supporter in the stand, all you want to know is the team that goes out there is going to reflect the fan base. When there's a tackle to be made, a tackle's going to get made. We're going to fight whoever comes to the Highbury or wherever we go, we're going to fight and we're going to battle.
Yeah.
And there ain't many players who you could say, I vouch for him 100%, but you could do that with Rocky because everybody knew what to expect, whether he's got his knee issue or whatever. Yeah, knees can get better. He never really got a chance to prove himself after that.
Yeah.
You know, George Graham I think he was a bit harsh and a bit rash making that decision. But that was George's job. He had to try and move the thing forward. And, you know, we saw him make some moves that, you know, many didn't like. And I think that was the biggest move that none of the players actually liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I was just going to say, what I like about, sorry, that was Kev, but, you know, whether you'll agree, I mean, one thing I loved about Rocky as well, I mean, obviously, like, you know, I've got West Ham fans in my family, and obviously they tell me it's sort of similar, like a Billy Bonds, that type of player, where, and Rocky reminded me of that in terms of, we could be 5-0 down and he'd still be looking at all the guys, we can still win this. 10 minutes to go, 5-0 down. But Rocky always believed, no, we can win it. We can still get something out of this. You know, and it was a case of, it was the attitude of, you know, the opposing team. If you think you're going to come and beat us, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to kill us and keep us down, because we're going to keep coming back up, keep getting up and keep coming at you. You know, it was that never say die attitude. And then, you know, it's this, all you guys had that at the time. And I think that's why, obviously, I fell in love with the Arsenal, because it was any team who came to Highbury and beat them, oh, blimey, they had to put a shift in.
Yeah, it was the competitive nature of that squad was immense. Yeah. And that's what George Graham bred. He bred competitors. He knew he had lads who would die for the shirt. And, you know, there was times where some of the opposition were probably, man for man, probably were as good, if not better than us at times. Yeah. But the competitive nature, we could blow teams away. Yeah. And obviously with that back four, back five that he trained to perfection, you know, we always had an opportunity with them at the back, because they hardly ever conceded any goals.
Yeah, drilled. Brilliant.
Brilliant to the Arsenal, man.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Claude, what about yourself? You got a question?
No, because me and Kevin, we speak a lot, don't we? So he's probably answered a lot of my questions about. Because we've had a lot of chat.
Ask it again, Claude. Ask it again. It's all right.
Big time, Claude. I've got no questions. I speak to him all the time.
Kevin, what was I saying? Is it true? I mean, at the time, and someone said to me that one of the players that really got upset about him going was Mickey Thomas.
Yeah.
He was really bad about it.
Well, you got to remember, Mickey Thomas and Rocky came through South London and Inner London and all that together, came through the ranks of Arsenal together. And, you know, they were very, very close. Kind of got through to the first team squad together. So, you know, two South London boys, you know, traveling in and meeting up and doing kit and doing all the business. And then, you know, that camaraderie, that togetherness was there with them. And obviously Paul Davis was an older member of that South London crew. I was the youngest member of that South London squad. So, you know, we all had that. It was like brothers in arms type of thing.
Yeah.
But Rocky
Do you think
and
that
Mickey,
sorry, Kevin, do you think that was an influence on, had that much of an influence on him that he left for Liverpool? Do you think that was part of the reason why he left for Liverpool?
No, I don't think so. I think George Graham. We all know what George Graham was like with contracts, and you know, he built something robust. He built something on good young homegrown players, and the problem with that was when everyone starts getting successful, you've got to pay the guys. You know, you have to pay them. You can't not pay them. But George Graham wanted to kind of scrimp and not pay the top dollar for the top players, and that's why the likes of Mickey Thomas, you know, he'd won 2 titles, he'd won, you know, League Cup and all that kind of thing, and he has a value, and George Graham didn't want to pay it. So you know, and at the end of the day, guys, look, we love the club and all that, but it's a business. Football's a business, and unfortunately, you know, Arsenal were getting away with skimping. Yeah. And it caught up with Arsenal in the end, because if you notice that Rocky and Mickey Thomas and all these guys, which were the glue, started to leave the club, and different players started to come in, and it was never the same. You know, to be able to sustain that league title form, you needed those glue guys in the team, and we just didn't add them. We became a cup team, but we just didn't have enough glue guys who were good enough, you know, who knew their way around the league enough.
Kevin, we've got a question here from Toffee20. Oh, it's just gone. I think it was basically who's your best ever player in your opinion? Arsenal player, sorry.
The best Arsenal player for ability wise, in my era, was Rocky, without a shadow of a doubt. But I think the most influential player, great player but influential leader, it's got to be Tony Adams. Got to be Tony Adams.
Here's one, Kevin. It's a super chat here, mate. Was Walter Smith I can't put that on, but as you dinosaur man. How did you rate Walter Smith? How did you rate Walter Smith? I rate
Walter Smith very highly, Claude, to be honest. When I first went to Everton, when I looked at that Everton squad, Everton had a really good squad. They just were young up front, Franny Jeffers and Danny Cadamartri.
Yeah.
So me going, you know, for all of 8 games, it was a quick baptism to try and, you know, integrate myself into the team. But, you know, any manager who struggles, who all of a sudden has got good players and we end up staying up, you know, he was lied to from pillar to post. He was promised a new training ground the day he got there. The day he left, they were still promised a new training ground, you know. There were talk of he was going to get money to do this, money to do that. He never got anything that he was promised. But he never complained. He got on with it, and you know, he done a decent job. But the inevitable is going to happen, because you know, when you're not given what you're supposed to get as a manager, there's only one thing going to happen. You're going to end up getting the tic tac.
Yeah, true.
Have you got?
Terry, can I ask you? There's a few.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on, Lev.
Oh, sorry, Lev. Sorry, mate.
No, sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I want to take it back to Rocky. And I want to try and get away, because I feel like again and again, because Rocky's gone, then we're talking about Rocky leaving, then we're talking about. I just want to try and look at some more like happier sort of moments and ask a few things that I've heard rumors about. So, firstly, Kev, was it true that when Rocky first came on board, I don't know if you were privy to this while you were there, that that he couldn't actually see when he was dribbling when he was first at the club? Why he was always looking down when he was running, because he couldn't see. So that they had to work it out, and the only way they could work it out was to take him to the halfway line and ask him if he could see the goal from where he was. And he said no. And then that's when the pivotal moment was, okay, they gave him some contact lenses. I'm not sure if this is true. This is a Keown sort of type story. And it was contact lenses that kickstarted his form. So I just wanted to know if that's just rumours or whether that's just, if there's any truth to it. Archie.
No, Lev, I've got to say this. If he couldn't see, how's he going to play?
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
How's he even going to get to
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I think there was one point where Rocky's eyes did deteriorate and he had to get contacts. But he was an established player at that time.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So I was wondering, how did he get to Arsenal in the first place?
So, going to the halfway line and looking, no chance. No, I can't see that.
Oh, that was a great story, though. That was a great story.
Yeah, he nearly had legs as well, Liv.
Terry, you have some Instagram messages?
Yeah. I'm going to try what we've done today, Kev, is that we put it out on Instagram to ask a question to yourself and all. So I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to have to apologise to everyone because my internet is absolutely rubbish tonight. So I'm just going to try and get it up if I can. If not, I'm just going to have to. I don't think I can. I'm going to have to read it off my phone. We've got a question here from Gooner AFC 84. He asked, would you say, I don't even know why this is a question, Kev, to be honest, but would you say Rocky was better than Ozil?
Oh, come on.
Well, what would I say? Well,
things are taking a turn now, aren't they?
Well, you look at what he's won. One's a homegrown player, and what he achieved. Obviously, Mesut Ozil came as a superstar, didn't he, from Real Madrid?
Yeah.
And look, there's no denying Mesut Ozil's quality. We all know what Mesut Ozil can bring to the table. But the one thing that differentiates both players is that competitive edge. That competitive edge makes a massive, massive difference for Rocky, being the number one out of the two. Because, as I say, we know what Mesut Ozil's got, that quality, but, when the chips are down, sometimes Mesut Ozil can go missing. But Rocky never went missing.
Exactly,
Kevin,
that's the difference.
A large, Kevin will agree with me on this, I'm sure. A large percentage of a footballer that really makes a top player is mentality. You can have all the ability in the world.
Yeah.
But if you haven't got the mentality, it's not worth nothing.
I mean, Rocky, again, it's that competitive nature, and as a fan, like us all now, I'm an ex-player, but I'm a fan. When I see Arsenal competing properly, like that first game under Arteta against Chelsea for an hour, that was Arsenal. That was the competitive edge, making tackles, and then we done it a little bit longer against Manchester United and got over the line. That competitive edge and tempo is Arsenal. That's what gets the crowd involved. That's what gets everybody thinking we could do something. But when it's passive and people are not getting close to anyone, we're not the same. We're not the same team, and the fan base ain't the same.
Yeah.
When we're not at it. So we need a competitive team, guys. We do. We need that hunger inside us.
Do you know what, Kev? You're bang on, right? Because when the amount of podcasts that us guys have, and when we talk about players we like, or is he a good player? Is he world class? Is he great? Is he? I don't see. You get some fans who rate players based on their technical ability, right? And that's it. I'm one. Whether it's an old school thing, I don't know. I look for more than that. So over the years we've had a few. I mean, when you look at Ray Parlour, for example, as an example. Not the most technical player in the world, but my God, if he's not in the team, you bloody miss him. Gilberto Silva, another one. The players, you don't necessarily get the headlines, but as you said earlier on, I'll allude to that. When we're talking about the glue, right, in a team, you get rid of that. The whole thing is like a house of cards. It just falls down. So it's also the application and the mentality and the behaviour, if you like,
Diesel, I'll be honest with you all here. the thing about Arsenal fans, which is why I know there's been a lot of infighting, is because you know what a good player looks like, you know what a good player acts like, you know what a good player does when the chips are down. You've seen it. You've seen team after team after team built, and you know the way they respond, you know the way they react. And then for these guys of today, to play well some days, not be competitive other days, is frustrating.
Yeah.
And then you've got a fan base who is saying, this one's world class, talking them up, when really you've been from the past to the present. You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like. You know when the team, look, there were times with that George Graham team, we never played well. But one thing you do know, we grafted and we ground out a 1-0. That's the sign of great teams. Even the Invincibles, there were times when they never played well, but they ground out results. They were competitive. But these days, if we don't grind out, if we're not tough or we're not competitive, we're going to lose.
Yeah. The old school saying, Kev, wasn't it? The old school saying, if you can't win, don't lose. Yeah. Brilliant.
Alexander in the chat, I think, is making a point that it's difficult to make comparisons because they're different type of players, which is true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I wouldn't put he said he's Ozil is a silk in the mould of Zidane. I wouldn't go that far though, Alex. But thanks for
He also said
Claude, everybody has their opinion.
It's an age thing, Kevin. Let's be honest.
Which is allowed.
Yeah.
Which is allowed.
Yeah.
But when somebody else compares them, you have to take the traits of both players.
Yeah.
One's silky, one's got Brazilian-like skill, but he's tough, competitive, etc. I know who I'd have in my team.
Me, you both.
Yeah.
Zane is another regular on our chat. He's come up with thanks for the donation. Kevin, you're a legend. Can you play up front for us now? Yeah, well, I think Kevin would get him up front.
He wouldn't know.
Claude, I'm in trading, mate.
Waiting for the call, when you, Kev.
Get me some competition now, mate.
We'll negotiate your contract, Kev. We'll negotiate your contract. We'll only take a small fee, mate.
Cheers,
don't worry.
With today's mentality, with sides, they like to rotate teams and give players rest and things like that. I mean, I would imagine back in the day when you was playing with Rocastle and Adams and all that, if they said that to play in a rotational team, that wouldn't have went down well in the dressing room, would it? Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Well, you couldn't rotate.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, saying
you couldn't rotate because you got the best back five in the land.
Yeah.
Why would you rotate that lot? All good teams are built on a base.
Yeah.
So George Graham always said, I could tinker with the front boys, but you never mess with your back five and your midfield.
Yeah.
Your holding midfield boys. You never mess with them.
Yeah.
Because they are the platform to go and win the game.
Yeah.
Snedden, I absolutely agree with it. Sorry. Snedden, I absolutely agree with that comment. It is about heart, and Rocky had a lot of heart. Absolutely spot on. Someone's reminding us. Loki says Kevin and Wright destroying Palace 4-1 at Highbury.
But was that the game?
I remember that.
Right, he got an hat-trick.
I was there.
Look, Wright, he was on the end of enough of them beatings against when we played them at Palace.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons, I think. Every time we used to play Palace, Wright never scored, and we always used to give him a slap. So after the game, Rocky and Wrighty always used to be chatting, and Andy Gray, who used to live around the corner from me, was in that team, and John Solarco. Great, it was a great banter between everybody. So we used to say to Wrighty, what are you doing messing about at Palace? You need to get to Arsenal. He was like, how am I going to get in the team and stuff like that? We said, don't worry. Just come across to the top side. We just used to wind each other up. And then he came. Then obviously in '92, he came across, and the legend was born. Ian Wright at Arsenal, and he couldn't believe the quality that Arsenal had. He just said, this isn't like Palace. This is another level. So, and he went on and scored all them goals, but he just couldn't believe the quality that Arsenal had. He said, even the kids are quality. When you play in a mixture game, he said even the youngsters coming through are quality. So, yeah, he was well made up.
He was good friends with Rocastle as well, wasn't he?
Sane has come in with another super chat. Sorry, gents. Kevin, what was the one manager you wish you could have played for? Is there a manager out there that you wish you could have played for?
Well, I suppose I missed Arsene Wenger by a season, didn't I? And unfortunately, Bruce Rioch was the middle guy. But I suppose I say to myself, if I'd stayed, then I would have played under Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Arsene Wenger because I'm an Arsenal man. So I would say Arsene Wenger because what he done at the football club was outstanding. It really was outstanding. His first dozen years were incredible, and it kind of tailed off towards the end. But he's still an unbelievable legend.
Yeah. Alexander here is putting another super chat. Thank you, Alexander. He's put, I've always said Zidane was a clone of the great Odell, copied him to the T. Ozil was an extremely skillful player, but he's past his sell-by date.
Yeah,
well, look, I think I've said this to Claude previously, and I don't know if you guys have actually heard me say it, but I think when Mesut Ozil was brought to the football club, we were still crying out for a centre half and a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
And we never got one.
Yeah.
So we had Ozil and Sanchez doing the business, and we still never had a centre half and a centre midfielder who could protect. So we were good going forward, but we'd always left the back door open.
Yeah.
And Arsene Wenger never addressed that situation.
Yeah.
And for me, I just don't understand it because, we had such great players in the team in those positions. So when they're not there, you could see the glaring holes in the team.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. Kevin, do you know, and I think going back to talking about Wenger there, 1998, and we just got beat by Blackburn, 3-1, was it, at home? And I remember people saying, and a lot of people have said that the players wanted a meeting with him. And that's when things turned around because they weren't happy the way that we were defending. And I think Adams called for a meeting and the players decided the way they wanted to play. And from then on, we went on a run. So, do you see where I'm coming from? And I think when that defensive, when that all broke up, the players all went. Eventually, Adams and all these players, all they went. He wanted to do it his way again, and I think that's where he went wrong. I think.
Well, Claude, when we had those couple of players in the middle of the park, I think we were good when those two holding like Petit Vieira and Gilberto. But then he wanted to go the Barcelona route, and I think the minute he done that, I think that's where we went wrong. Well, we went light, didn't we? We went light, and as a team, I don't know if you've ever heard Gary Neville talk about being in the tunnel, and you're looking at the Arsenal boys, and all the Arsenal boys are big, physical specimens.
Yes. Men.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're big, they're aggressive. You could feel the heat coming off them. Yeah. But when you're playing against a Fabregas and a Jack Wilshere, very good technical players, but they can be bullied. Bigger teams, stronger teams fancy their chances. And unfortunately, going back to the point you made, Claude, it don't surprise me if Tony Adams saw a problem he would address it.
Yeah.
And he will get the players together and he'll get the manager together and he'll put his point across. He's earned the right as captain to be able to do that. And it doesn't surprise me that he done something like that. And then the team went on a run, because under George Graham, that's what we were self-accountable. You had to be accountable. And you had to be accountable to your teammates. And if anybody saw something or felt something that needed to be said, it got said. That's what the best teams do. They address the situations. But when you see the manager not addressing the situation of that holding midfield, especially, that really weakened the football club.
I mean, if you'd have cloned Wenger and Graham in together, I think you'd have the perfect manager, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because that would be the perfect. Because if you watch the '89, there's no way that Arsene Wenger would have gone to Anfield and done that sort of performance, would he? And no way would Arsene Wenger would have done that performance in against Parma in the Cup Winners' Cup final, when he had that midfield that night, and he still managed to pull off one of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah,
and still managed to pull a result off by hook or crook.
That Parma team beat AC Milan.
Exactly.
And
so that's what I'm saying.
They were unbelievable. And
Yeah.
that midfield that night, Claude, centre midfield was Paul Davis and Ian Selly.
Ian Selly, that's going back. Yeah.
And you got Zola, Cripper, Sensini,
having said that, Davis was a great player.
Yeah, Davis was underrated. Davis was very underrated for me.
Very underrated.
I'd like to say, Kev, you've hit a nail on the head for us as fans, really, because you mentioned George was quite lucky with the crop that he had, right? But then you can also argue that Wenger was lucky with that foundation he walked into,
extremely,
right? Now, come on now, he was obviously very good at finding technically gifted players. So then all he had to do really was work around that foundation that he had to add. I mean, Vieira was a massive, massive reason for the success. And us as fans, we looked at those teams that Wenger had over those years. And then the frustration that started to build as fans, I think you hit the nail on the head there, is we just couldn't understand why. Why are you not replacing Vieira? Why are you not replacing the centre-back situation or the DM? Why? This season was like a repeat season for us. Okay, we're going to do it this year. We're going to centre-back. We're going to do it. And he wouldn't do it. And you said it went light, but that Barca team was a one-off. Not every team had Iniesta, Xavi, and Messi, right? There were freaks. Those three were like a different class to everybody else. To do that in the ship where you got all physical players and physicality, we just knew it weren't going to work. And if he had someone with fabric, Wilshere, it would have made a massive difference. And I also think that it passed to playing him, and he wasn't in big solid men next to him. Wilshere was getting involved in things he shouldn't be getting involved, getting caught when he was getting injured. He kept on bringing him back too soon and pinging a little bit as well. So for us as fans, for me, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, we just couldn't understand it. I think as things got worse year upon year, that's where it tarnished his rep a little bit. And, it's a shame, really. Yeah, I mean, you said his fans fought for the last few years.
Well, Lev, here's what I will say. You make a great point. But here's what I will say. You go from Tony Adams and then Sol Campbell takes the mantle.
Exactly.
With Martin Keown and Kolo Toure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've never won a title since without having a British centre half.
No.
And who replaces Sol Campbell?
Yeah.
Who replaces Vieira? And Gilberto? These players are top players, and probably never got the recognition that they deserve. I mean, Vieira was a world-class player, but I still think even he didn't get the recognition he deserved at Arsenal.
Ashley Cole.
Replace these players with?
Ashley Cole.
Left back, wasn't he?
Ashley Cole again, listen, and that's Arsenal skimping again.
Yeah.
How are Chelsea outbidding Arsenal. Pay the man. Pay the man.
Yeah.
You know,
We got,
pay him. Keep that core together. You've got to keep that back five together. That's for sure.
Oh, regardless. Yeah.
Regardless. But
Yeah.
maybe that's where Arsene Wenger differed to George Graham, because George Graham would have kept that back five in place.
Yes.
But he wouldn't. He would have paid Ashley to keep him in there. But obviously, Arsene Wenger, as far as he's concerned, he had somebody else to come in. But it's never the same. Ashley Cole was a homegrown player. It's never the same.
Yeah.
Two super chats, but one from Daniel, the blind Gooner. You know Daniel, don't you, Kevin?
Yes.
He's wishing us all well tonight. Yeah, and thank you, Daniel, for that. And Alexander Gomez, he says, I have a question for Kevin. As an ex-pro, is the Messi the best player you've ever seen? Is he really better than Pele and Maradona? Well, I'm before Kevin answers that, I'm more Maradona, because I think Maradona done it when people were able to hack you down, and when you was able to make contact. But anyway, Kevin
was a lot more physical then.
Kevin might have a different opinion than me on that.
Well, look, the best player I've ever seen live was Brazilian Ronaldo, striker.
Oh, the original Ronaldo.
He was unstoppable. And when he played for Real Madrid at Old Trafford, and he scored a hat-trick, and they took him off, and there was standing ovation.
I remember that game.
That's when you know, Kevin. That's when you know.
That's when you know.
When you know.
You used to watch Italian football on a Sunday, and some of the things that guy could do, he was incredible. But modern football, because that's what it was. He kind of brought in modern football, the likes of Ronaldo and Messi. For now, Messi's the best player, obviously, of this era. But it's eras. Pele was the best in his era. Maradona was the best in his era. There were a lot of good players, but Brazilian Ronaldo was phenomenal in his era. And I think it's eras. So, you're not going to get me answering that one.
There's a question I see earlier, and then I'm going to try and get up another Instagram question. But I think it was from Beatbox. He said it was earlier on in the chat, which I thought was a really good question, but it's a bit controversial. He said, if your son got offered a contract from Tottenham, what would you advise him to do?
No, my son's his own man. He's an adult.
Yeah.
So obviously he'll wait for Arsenal to.
Good answer, Kevin.
Well done, Kevin. I was waiting for that. Well done, mate. Well done. I like that.
By the way, Kevin, he's doing quite well.
Seriously, listen, it's his career.
Yeah.
And if the bid came in and he wanted to go, it's up to him whether he goes or not. He obviously struggled to get Dad there, but that's life.
He's doing well at the moment, Kevin, isn't he? He's doing quite well at the moment, isn't he?
He's done all right. He's got a manager now who believes in him, which is all he's needed. He's still only 20 years old, Claude. So, fingers crossed. He's developing. He's a young player. He's developing. He's got a lot to learn, but he's got a lot of quality. So, fingers crossed he can keep on improving and get there. Get there, definitely.
Yeah. Just a quick one from Instagram. I don't think I can get it up again. I'm sorry. I'm going to quickly try one more time. We've got it
careful what you say there, Terry.
Well, if you can read it out, mate. You want to read it out?
Oh, go on, sorry.
Sorry.
What was?
I'll do it. Yeah. Go on. One of you boys do it. I don't mind. Go on.
What was Rocky's? We've gone through that really, but anyway, it's a good question. Yeah. What was Rocky's personality like? Yeah, he had a great personality, didn't he? As far as
Rocky's personality was Rocky could walk into a room and light up the room just by walking in. Everybody everybody was like drawn to Rocky.
Yeah,
Because
gravitating
he
it.
always
Yeah,
had a smile on his face. He was always nice. He was always kind. He was always caring. I've got the story about, after the 89 at Anfield, where we've gone to the Winners Club in Southgate, and there was only four of us on the coach on the way back to Highbury. This is like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was myself, Rocky, Tony Donnelly, the kit man, and Frank, the driver. So we get back to Highbury, and there's a lad out of his head asleep on the steps. So we put all the skips in, and Rocky says, Rambo, should we wake him up? So I said, yeah, why not? So Rocky gets 3 beers, wakes him up, and he's like, oh, Rocky, I can't believe it's you. So he says, have a beer, mate, and tell us about your night. So we were there for like 45 minutes, and this fan who'd just been woken up by Dave Rocastle, Rocky showing him his medal and stuff like that. He was telling us about his night where it all going crazy at the Arsenal Tavern, and we took him into the Marble Halls, and it was like, a dream come true for this guy. But that's what Rocky's personality was. He was a man of the Arsenal fans. He was a man of the people, and what a great man.
Yeah, incredible. It just shows you what, I mean, you wouldn't get that today, Kevin.
No chance. No way.
They'll pretend to be on the phone now.
Kev, sorry, I've just got a question. I just wanted to ask you, just in your opinion, because I believe this is a factor, right? Sort of back in the day, we're seeing a lot of young players now getting things too easy, too quick. 1 or 2 good games are spoken about for England and blah, blah. And then you see them in the papers, young 18, 19-year-olds buying flash cars, buying mansions, this, that, the other, which is great, don't get me wrong. But I suppose where I'm going with it is I preferred the days where, you had to sort of, clean the first team players' boots, and there was a bit more of a grounding back then, So even if you had, you had 1 or 2 good games, you were firmly kept grounded, whether it be washing cars or cleaning the boots. And I've heard a lot of ex-players sort of say it was things like that kept us grounded. So if we had a good game and, there was a chance of the hype getting to us, tomorrow morning we've got to go in early and wash that guy's car, or we've got to clean the players' boots, or we've got to tidy the dressing room, or those, the menial jobs, which sort of, I suppose, in life they keep you grounded anyway. I don't think that goes on anymore in today's game. But
no, it don't.
Would you say that's a factor?
Yeah, well, it can be, but I think more has to be put into perspective about who was running the youth back then. You had Pat Rice, captain of Arsenal, ex-captain. You had the likes of Terry Murphy, Steve Burnshaw, Terry Burton. Then you had Stuart Houston who came in. George Graham was the manager. So all of the peers were Arsenal kind of guys, or had come through the tough parts. And Geordie Armstrong, you weren't allowed to step out of a line. Even the first team boys, Paul Davis, Rocky, David O'Leary, Tony Adams, all the guys, everybody kept you in check. So it's not just about the jobs you done. It was everybody wanted to keep you in check, because that's the way Arsenal done it.
Yeah.
And when you look at now, the amount of ex-players that are there now, and now you're starting to see youngsters coming through, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the narrative is going to be the same from these guys. You're getting the same information to keep yourself grounded. Nobody's going to get too above their station, whether they get £100,000 now. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
Because that continuity of information from the coaching staff and from the senior players is the same. That consistency. That's what makes the difference as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
See, the trouble with that, Kev, I know where Diesel's coming from as well. The trouble with that, does the hunger go out? Because it's all that is coming too soon. Does the hunger go? Because you're getting it too much too soon.
I still put it down to, just put it this way. if we were all getting $5,000 for doing this podcast, would we get complacent? No, we'd want to do a lot more.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
True, when you
Are
put
you
it
not
like
getting
that.
paid? Are you not getting paid? Because I'm not. What's going on?
We'll talk about that after the podcast.
Have I missed the memo?
So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is
Yeah.
paying people isn't what gets them complacent. It's the message and the people that are in there is to keep them consistent. The coaching has to be consistent. The peers that look after these guys have to be consistent. But if they're getting different messages from all over the place, you know, it's the message is too inconsistent for them to be consistent.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You know, why is, for instance, Saka one of our most consistent performers? Why? Because he's had the same information properly with Arteta now, week in, week out, and he's coming in. He's had to fill in at left back. He's done this, but he's been consistent. And it's not because he's not getting this money or he's getting that money. It's because the consistency of the information he's getting is good. Martinelli's come in and done well. You know, some other youngsters have come in and done well. It's not rocket science. It's that information. Steve Bold has gone back down to being reserve manager. And that keeps the consistency as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's there. The coaching staff is so important.
Oh, behind the
to
scenes,
well-being of the football club. You just don't realize how important they are. But now that you've got Arsenal guys, proper ex-players there who have been there, seen it, done it, now we should start to see that flow come through consistent.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Totally agree.
Molina, a regular on our chat. Question for Kevin. Most memorable moment with Rocky. Love the channel. Making my quarantine entertaining. Keep up the great work. Be safe, everyone. Most memorable moment for you.
Thanks, Molina.
Most memorable moment with Rocky, probably actually at the at Anfield after the game. After the game, and we're just sat in the dressing room. You know, some lads are going in the shower, and Rocky's just sat there. He's got Mickey Thomas on one side. You know, he's got the lads. They've got beer in one hand, a glass of champagne in the other. And I asked him, I said, Rocky, how does it feel? He said, Rambo, it feels good, man. He just said it feels, but humble. You know, he just said it feels good, man. It feels, we've worked so hard for this. And you know what I mean? We just clinked tins and had a beer and stuff. And it was just, I swear to you, in the dressing room, you'd think it would be going mad. It wasn't. It was just so calm and everybody was buzzing, but it was just, you know, it's classy. It was classy.
Yes.
That was the moment, you know, with Rocky. That was just class, real class.
Do you know what? When we talk about things like this and we reminisce, it just honestly, and I mean this, guys, I'm so proud to be an Arsenal fan, man, because you know, we've had many the last several years. It's been very hard for me to say that, but when we talk about the old, the old school way, I mean, George Graham. I mean, I said it to Claude when we did the podcast a few days ago about the best ever Arsenal 11. I mean, manager wise, I went with George Graham. Because for me, he was. I mean, I've met the man, and I've never have I been more in awe of someone, Kev. But you know, he was a manager. You know, I like managers, not head coaches, or what you see nowadays. A manager, he called all the shots, and being around George, and you know, like when you look at a man, and you just think, that's one man I don't want to cross. You know, he just had that about him. You know, when I hear, you know, like yourself and some of the other players. The respect, when you speak about George, you can just hear it in your voice. You know, the amount of respect that you guys had for him, that tells me this man was a proper manager. You know, and
Diesel, do you know why? Do you know why a lot of the players of that era respect George Graham so much? Is because he took the training every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
All of this brainchild it wasn't like a coach doing it and him on the sideline just observing. He took the training. He took the back 45. He took the back 6. He coached the strikers. He coached us in different positions so we can be a lot more flexible at times, you know. So if he needed to make a substitution or an adjustment, we knew exactly what to do. That's why we respect him so much. He didn't want any clicks. He said it's either we all go out or none of us go out.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
we all went out. So Loki's put a question: how crazy was the squad with Merce? Probably Grosey, right, etc. It was mental because George Graham liked it that way. He liked us training hard, and he liked us playing hard. It was he said, "Look, you Arsenal men, you young men, you've got to train hard, and you've got to play hard." And that's what we've done all the way through. That was our mantra. And he said, when you're going up north, for instance, we can't be shrinking violets going up there because everyone is against you. And I want to know that this squad has the character to go up north and go and have a battle. Hence, you remember us getting dot points at Old Trafford for the battle up there. And, you know, anytime we went up north, we used to do very well because we had the character, we had that team that can go anywhere and compete.
Kev, you hit the nail on the head for me again, because as good as Wenger was, again, I don't, you know, and with what Graham done prior to him coming along, why, you know, you've mentioned Arsenal had a lot of the old sort of school in the club all throughout, through the spine of the club, through the coaching system. Everyone was the old school Arsenal, right? And then at some point that seemed to go away because if you look at it over the last few years, like, you know, people like Vieira, who was a major influence, a captain in our midfield, our captain, ends up at City. Or, you know, other people that should maybe have been maintained within the club that were masters of their crafts, like your Siemens, your Adams, Righties, all these type of people. These guys would have been perfect for me if they were in our system to teach the youngsters coming up, and those looking at them with awe. But for some reason, from that, as Wenger came, when that back four went, or that back five went, being maintained and still and a few others. But what stood out for me, why are we not keep like legends within our club? They not deep rooted in our club, and you know, so the young can aspire to be like them. I mean, what's your thought?
Yeah, in theory, it's nice. In theory, it's nice, but the regime had changed. It was Arsene Wenger's club, and he had to choose who he needed to develop youngsters. And were Arsenal actually really developing youngsters? I think Steve Bold done a great job with the youth team at one stage, and Paul Davis was in the background at one stage. Liam Brady was part of the recruitment team, and Stephen Morrow was part of the recruitment team. But there wasn't a concerted effort. I think this is the point you're making, Lev. There weren't a concerted effort to get the key cornerstone pieces in place to develop these young, talented players. But that only happens for a reason. It's because it's not the mentality of the football club anymore. Why the likes of Tony Adams and Boldy and all these guys can't not only teach it, but they've got to transfer that knowledge and that toughness. I think it's that toughness element that has been lacking at Arsenal for a long time. We're getting it back slowly under Arteta now, but that mental toughness and reflecting the fan base, we see it from time to time, but it's not consistent enough.
No, I totally agree.
Anyway, I think we've taken a lot of Kevin's time out this.
We've only got 50 more questions for him.
Kevin's chilling on his sofa. Leave, man. Leave. Just no, I'm only joking. I'm joking.
Wrap it up, boys. Yeah, wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Listen.
Leave something so you can get me back on.
Well, I'm gonna leave you.
All right, we're going now. We're off. See you later.
I'm gonna leave you. Hopefully, leave it with this, Kevin. Let's see if I can get it up.
More.
We was talking about the man himself, so let's if we can get just a little slideshow up of the man we was talking about.
Rocky Rocastle.
Sorry about that, but we've got technical problems tonight. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry,
I can hear you. I think it was. Oh, that was fine.
Well,
on my side, but that was that's a good way to finish. I think. Lovely guy, lovely lad, lovely guy. We all miss him. I know Kevin misses him more than anyone on here. And thank you, Kevin. I know it's not been a easy day for you. I know because you've been doing things all day, haven't you, on this? And thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kev. Really appreciate it.
Don't forget.
No worries, guys. Really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully you could get me on again.
Yeah,
definitely.
Massive respect, Kev, for doing that, mate.
Once all this crap is all over, and we can have a nice beer together again, Kev. Yeah.
No beer. I've given up, and I.
Oh, you've given up. I thought you. Are you serious about this?
Yeah, given up.
Right,
back in training for that new contract with that lad in the bedroom.
I'm back in. These guys could get a game. Listen, mate, it's worth giving it up.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm giving it up, mate. Giving it up.
Kevin, you do realise.
I'll buy you a beer. I'll have a soldering line.
All right, Kevin, you do realise it's not the Corona beer that does this. You know that, don't you?
I know that.
Anyway,
it's more of a red stripe, man. Anyway.
Kevin, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's not been easy for you, and I think all the boys here appreciate you coming on.
No, we do massively.
Short notice, and you know, Kevin, I'd love to have you on more often if you can. I know you're a busy guy, but when you can, I'll give you a bit more notice.
Well, just give me a Claude. Just text me, and if I can, I will.
Okay, mate. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Let's not forget what this is all about. As I said, a great guy, a great player. We'll always remember him, even in the next 20 years. In 20 years' time, we'll all remember him still, because he was a true Arsenal legend. And let's leave. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. Thank you, everyone on the chat. And I will, and we leave you with this tonight. Thank you. Thank you all. Goodbye, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Big up, Kev. Thanks a lot, mate.
Bye now. Bye, Lev. Bye, Diesel. Bye, Gooner.
All the best, mate. Wish you well.